Today I'm going to be talking about the importance of identifying our flaws as men and also dealing with our anger. How's it going, guys? And welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. My name is Chad and this is the Hopeful Homestead. And in this series of videos, I like to think that I'm talking to all the husbands and dads out there as we sit here in the cabin together, drinking some coffee, talking about all the difficult things in life. And as men, I think we can all admit that it's hard for us to identify our flaws and it's hard for us to really work on those things. And it's certainly, for a lot of us, hard to deal with our anger that we so easily can end up having to overtake us. I know I'm no exception for that. We all have flaws, and as men of faith, I know, speaking from a perspective of a Christian, a man of faith, I know we all have flaws. I know I certainly fall short of what we're called to be in Christ. We are only human after all. We all make mistakes, but identifying flaws that we have that create repeat mistakes is one of the keys to trying to live a better life. Coffee certainly helps, that's for sure. But let me know in the comments before this, before we get really into the topic here. Let me know down below. Comment what you're struggling with. Comment what you think might be some of your flaws. If you feel comfortable doing that, and then maybe we can share tips with each other down there on how to improve. Maybe someone has struggled with something similar to you and has found ways to cope with it or deal with it. This can be an opportunity to really work with each other and figure out ways to help each other out. Because speaking from personal experience, my greatest flaw that I've really come to realize is my Achilles heel as an adult, as a fastly becoming middle-aged man here. I'm turning 37 soon. I'm a husband and a father. I've got a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. We all deal with similar things in life, just trying to make it through. But at the same time, I've noticed a trend that has been something I've been dealing with. And over the past couple of years, anger has been a difficult thing for me. I sort of suffer from, making fun of it a little bit here, I sort of suffer from Marty McFly syndrome. If you know the movies, Back to the Future movies, Marty McFly was famous for being a pretty even-keeled guy until someone called him chicken. And if someone called him chicken, attacking his character, that would set him off. It would send him into the red zone real quick, where he sees red and just wants to do nothing but kick the guy's butt for calling him chicken. So I suffer from that a little bit. I realize that, and I'm working on it. It's difficult. I was not that way growing up. I did not have that problem as a teenager. So I think it has something to do with becoming a dad. And they say you get dad strength when you become a dad, and you sort of come into your own. And whenever anybody challenges my kids or says something inappropriate to them or threatens them in any way, or does that for my wife, or even does that towards me, I have this real quick reaction to just want to absolutely demolish them. And it's not good. I realize that. Part of it is good in that you want to be a protector, and you got to have a little fight and a little bite in you, right? Like, because what use for you if you're not capable of defending your family with a little bit of fight in you? You got to exercise restraint and capability and grace, but at the same time, you got to have a little fight in you, right? And I've struggled through my 30s with that a little bit, of being quick to anger. My wife makes fun of me all the time for my road rage. I have moments when I'm driving around here in South Florida, there's a lot of nut jobs on the road, and I have a quick to anger scenario, and I've gotten it under control. I don't do anything sarcastic at them out the window. I used to do stupid things like that, where I would try to make sure they knew they were in the wrong. And all that produces is the likelihood of something escalating to a bigger problem. And I realize that now. And now someone cuts me off, someone swerves in front of me on the highway and hits their brakes for no reason at all, I just think to myself how ridiculous it is and keep driving. Can't say I'm always completely good with that, but I'm doing my best. And the weird part is I'm a pretty passive person by nature. I don't look for confrontation. I actively seek out to avoid it. I think subconsciously maybe I seek out to avoid it because I know myself. I know that if it gets to a confrontational point, that I have a hard time controlling, not going from 0 to 100 and wanting to absolutely just maul the person. So I avoid it at all costs, not necessarily because I'm afraid, because I'm truly not afraid of confrontation. I'm afraid of what I'll do or become in that moment, if that makes sense. So I'm pretty passive and I'm pretty even keeled most of the time until someone crosses that line that, challenging my character as a man, or, challenging how good of a father I am, or, challenging the safety of my family. That's where I see red real quick. And that brings me to something I wanted to address too, is that, I made that trigger discipline video a couple of videos back, and looking back on it now, I was probably a little heavy-handed with the approach of delivering that and how I was speaking. It was that brash, quick to, 0 to 100, quick to anger side of me that came out in that video. And while the message I was trying to get across was rooted in truth about trigger discipline and single action armies and everything I was talking about in that video, I do realize that I was probably a little bit aggressive. But that's the thing, is like I was saying, in the farm guns video I did, I had a lot of people commenting on it because I was handling my single action guns without traditional trigger discipline, and people were lighting me up in the comments, and I don't care about the occasional comment of somebody just saying, hey, watch your trigger discipline, it's like, whatever. It was the comments that came in that were especially rude, especially crass, challenging my character, calling me a bad father, all this stuff, and clearly coming from somebody who's never touched or used a single action gun before. So it just got on my nerves, and and when the 10th or 15th or 20th person comes at you like that, and having to delete some of these comments, I had to block a few people that were just being overboard, like way overbearing and crazy, demanding that I apologize and all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And I wanted to make a video addressing the subject and clearing the air about the truth behind single action armies and all of that. So while I don't regret making that video, maybe I regret some of the ways I was saying some of the things. And that's what I'm talking about today, is identifying your flaws. I know one of my flaws is being quick to anger now in my 30s. I'm working on it. I'm seeking out. I pray about it. As a man of faith, I pray about it. I go to church. I read scripture. I try to talk about it with some of my guy friends. And I'm trying to pursue being better with it. But at the same time, I'm only human, man. I'm a husband and a dad that's looking to protect my family, and I take pride in the character that I have. And ironically, that can cause me to go a little bit crazy if someone challenges that. So it is what it is. I'll keep doing better. But I challenge you to identify what flaws you have. What things can you improve in your life to help you be a better man? And again, let's share all that in the comments, and maybe we can help each other out with some tips that might help us deal with some of the things we're dealing with. And I'll leave you with this, a true story that actually proves that not letting anger get the best of you ends up actually benefiting the situation to have a better outcome than what I wanted to do in the moment. Last May, my wife and I are huge country music fans, and we went to the Sand in My Boots festival that was over in Gulf Shores, Alabama. That was a 3-day festival out on the beach with like every major country artist you can imagine, ending with Morgan Wallen on the final night. But we had VIP pit tickets, so we were standing. We would have to show up if we wanted to get a good position. We had to show up early at like noon, as soon as the gates opened, and stake our claim up close to the stage on the beach in the sand and just stand there all day. And we realized real quick after 3 days of that we're entering our late 30s. We might not be doing that much anymore. If we're going to go to a concert or a show or something, we're getting seats. In this particular instance, we spent 3 days doing this, and on the final day, we wanted to be able to be up close for the final act, Morgan Wallen. That's the whole point of being there. We were probably 3 or 4 people back from the main stage. Like, we were gonna have a terrific view of one of the spots of the stage, and we were excited about it. And we showed up at 12, and it was blazing hot. The sun's beating down on you all day. You're getting sunburnt. You're getting taxed. You're taking turns holding your spot in the sand, going out to get food or drinks and bringing it back. You're making friends with some of the people around you that are, staking your claim. And then right as the second to last act was coming on stage, and he was the last performer before Morgan Wallen was going to come on, this 50-something-year-old couple shows up, and it's this 50-something-year-old guy and his wife, and they decide that they're just gonna step in front of me and squeeze up and squeeze right in front of me in the sand where I've been standing all day, when there's almost nobody lined up behind us. They could just line up right behind us, and he squeezed right in front of us. Oh man. I would have been angry in a normal scenario where I wasn't physically taxed and worn out from 3 days of a music festival being out in the sun. But I was livid. When I tell you I was so unbelievably mad, I don't think I've had a moment in life where I've been more likely to do something stupid than in that moment. Because this guy was not only just doing this out of spite to just be a jerk, he knew what he was doing. He also was a complete jerk to me. Because I tried it first. I tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, no man, what are you doing? Like, we've been standing here all day long. Why do you think you just cut right in front of us? And he turns to me and he says, this is a music festival, deal with it. Oh man, and I'm thinking to myself, and first of all, he was a stocky guy in his 50s, but I was towering over him with like a foot. I had like 6 to 12 inches of height on him. And I'm a big dude. I'm 6'1", 6'2" on a good day, and 250, 260. And I'm thinking to myself, who in the heck does this guy think he is? He's clearly, like, what is he doing? Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, if I was a complete jerk and a completely violent, jerk of a person, I could, based on just sheer facts of size difference, absolutely maul him. So I'm thinking to myself, this jerk has never been taught a lesson. This guy's acted this way his whole life. He just waltzes around thinking the world owes him and he's the center of everything. And he's thinking he can just cut right in front of me and nothing's gonna happen. And I'm thinking, and I start losing all sense of reason and judgment in this moment. I get angrier and angrier because I keep telling him, no, you gotta move, man. And he turns around and he starts threatening me to want to take it outside to have a fight. And I'm thinking to myself, you've got to be kidding me right now. I'm in this position. And believe me, I was so mad that I was starting to shake. I had so much adrenaline. My legs were shaking standing there. I was ready to just tackle this guy and absolutely teach him a lesson. I was quickly losing all discernment and all grace in every bone in my body. And so everybody around us that was standing with us all day, obviously on my side, and we all get mad and we all start yelling about it. And the security team that was in the spot between the actual the VIP pit and the stage, there's always that empty area where the photographers are, and the security guards and stuff. This head of security for the event jumps over the fence and jumps up to us, and he's real aggressive. He's a big power trip guy, and he says, "What's going on?" And we all explain what's going on with this guy cutting in front of us. And this security guy has the nerve to tell me that I'm in the wrong. He says, "It's a music festival, man. You don't own the space that you're standing in." And I remember thinking, I said to him, "You guys have signs posted everywhere about reporting unruly fans and unruly people." And I said, "So what does that even mean?" Because he was telling me that if I wanted something to be done, if I wanted that guy to be kicked out, that I would have to also be kicked out with him, just for reporting him, for being a jerk. And I was getting so unbelievably, I cannot even describe to you how angry I was in this moment. And remind you, we're at the witching hour here. We're right at the end of this thing where it's almost over and the main act, the whole reason we're there is about to go on stage soon. I'm starting to weigh out in my mind. I'm like, it'd be worth it. I could spend a night in jail. One night in jail in Alabama, not in Gulf Shores, isn't gonna be too bad. I actually start thinking about all these things, like I could cold cock this guy and teach him a lesson. And I'm completely, and what's crazy is that as a man of faith and a Christian, in that moment that was so extreme, everything was taken over me. I was completely losing all of my senses, all of my grace, all of what I know to be true as a Christian. It was all going out the window. It was, pure human, pure man right there, zero God. And thankfully, I had enough sense, we decided, let's just move. Because I wasn't going to enjoy the rest of the show standing directly behind this guy the whole time. We ended up having to move further back. We lost our spot up close to the stage. That killed me after being there for 12 hours in the blistering sun. We moved further back, and the way that the stage was set up is that there was the whole stage, there was a part of the stage that jutted out in the middle, and then beyond the stage was like this big alleyway between two sections that were the VIP standing room only sections on either side of this aisle that led off the stage up to where the media breakout booth was, where all the cameras are that film the show. There was this midway causeway through there. So we ended up moving back up to where we were going to be on the railing for that causeway, that little pathway. And so I'm thinking, we're further from the stage now. I'm super mad. But then, moral of the story here is that during Morgan Wallen's performance, he comes down and runs through that causeway, and we're standing right there on the fence, and my wife and I are sitting there. We get to high five him. And this dude that was being a jerk was stuck 3 or 4 people back, closer to the stage, mind you, but 3 or 4 people back. He wasn't able to be on the fence to be able to high five Morgan Wallen. Whatever, I don't really care that much about high fiving the dude, but my wife is a huge Morgan, she's even more, I like his music, but my wife is a mega Morgan Wallen fan. And I was pretty proud and happy in that moment to think, you know what, I exercised restraint. I was really close on the brink to not doing it, but thank God I didn't, because the trade-off would have been spending a night in jail after, getting into a fight with the guy and obviously compromising on everything I believe and being an idiot. And the counter to that was that we ended up in a better spot, getting to high five Morgan Wallen and being that close to something cool. So the moral of the story is, it pays off to use restraint. It pays off to not lose your cool. And sometimes I think God is using a moment to teach you a lesson. And I certainly learned a lesson that day of, okay, all right, Lord, you know, you're exercising a situation to expose something in me that I need to work on, and also to teach me a lesson of value in doing the right thing. But all right, this has been a rambling video that's been far too long, way longer than I thought it was gonna be. But thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it if you've been here all the way through. And if you feel like sticking around, there's actually a video right here talking about how you can still be a godly husband and father even though you struggle with sin. Hit the like button, leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Thanks.